Mayim Bialik is well known for being the weird and quirky Amy Fowler on The Big Bang Theory. It seems nothing can faze her. But did you know that Mayim's own life is wrought with pain and grief and mental health struggles? From controversial comments to seemingly blaming victims of sexual harassment, in this video, we'll show you all the controversial reasons why so many people just love to hate her, while also showing you some of her rare photos. Younger audiences might not know this, but Mayim's first acting gig wasn't The Big Bang Theory. She started off as a child actor and had a very promising career ahead of her, but then she just suddenly disappeared out of the spotlight for 12 long years. Even when she finally returned to acting, she was overwhelmed by fear and anxiety. The last thing she wanted was to become famous. But why? What caused her to turn her back on fame? Was it childhood trauma or perhaps harsh abuse both on and off the set? An even bigger question is, what forced her back into acting if she didn't want to do it? Well, Mayim's first acting role was in one episode of the 1987 TV remake of the classic fable Beauty and the Beast. Mayim was only around 12 years old, and her performance soon opened the door to other small appearances in both television and film. She played the character of Jennifer Cole in 2 episodes of The Facts of Life in 1988. She landed 2 film roles in that same year as well, playing Wallace Kidd in Pumpkinhead and Cece in Beaches. Mayim then landed 8 episodes playing the best friend to the lead character in the television series Webster. This was followed by her own show, Malloy, in which she played the lead character of the same name starring alongside a young Jennifer Aniston. Sadly, the show ran for only 7 episodes. More small roles followed, including programs like MacGyver, The Wonder Years, and Empty Nest. In 1990, she landed her own show yet again called Blossom, which ran for 5 seasons. She had achieved all this incredible success by the time she was just 14. But if you think she had the perfect fairy tale life, you are mistaken. In fact, in her personal life, the teenage Mayim felt depressed and miserable. Growing up, she never fit in anywhere. Her parents were first-generation Jewish immigrants. They spoke a different language and celebrated different holidays. It didn't help her to make friends at all. It's easy to think that she was the popular kid in school because she was a celebrity, but the exact opposite was true. It made life even harder for her. Mayim also suffered relentless teasing for the way she looked. It left a deep scar and haunts her even to this day. People made horrible comments about my appearance, which have never left me since I've been 14 years old. Sadly, this torturous teasing didn't only happen at school or behind her back. No, much worse than that. Mayim was a public target for the media, and it was open season. She still remembers the devastation after a TV critic at the time focused more on her appearance than her acting talent. The shape of my face confused this critic. He said that my features did not seem to match one another. I was essentially being described as a Frankenstein of a teenager. Even SNL humiliated Mayim because of her looks. In a 1994 episode, they made fun of her character, Blossom. In this scene, you can see actress Melanie Hutsell sporting a big fake nose to impersonate Mayim. And remember, Mayim was still just a teenager when she had to endure this horrible humiliation.
I need to ask you for some frank sexual advice. Whoa.
So it makes you wonder, was it just a coincidence that Mayim almost disappeared from the public just the following year? In 2023, Melanie Hutsell publicly apologized for her role in the humiliating sketch, saying, "I was absolutely horrified that they wanted me to wear a prosthetic nose to play Mayim Bialik's character Blossom. I knew it was wrong." Even though she did not want to go through with it, the SNL producers apparently threatened her. When I expressed that I did not want to wear the prosthetic nose for the sketch, I was told if I refused, I would be fired. That just gives you an idea of how cruel the industry was, and for Mayim, it was hell. Around the time she was 16 or 17, she had to get therapy.
You know, for me, it felt really, really deep and really, really dark. And that's when I got help.
She began experiencing excruciating anxiety and panic attacks. And no, not the light kind that people joke about. Hers was so bad that she literally feared for her life. By the time she was 19, her show Blossom had ended. Mayim basically dropped out of acting and focused on study. She still appeared in some small guest roles here and there, and also some voice acting roles, but nothing to draw attention to herself. In 2000, she earned her degree in neuroscience from UCLA. In 2003, she married her husband, Michael Stone. 2 years later, Mayim welcomed her first son, Miles. The following year, she completed her PhD in neuroscience, and the year after that, in 2008, she welcomed her second son, Frederick. Once again, her life seemed perfect, but you'd be wrong to think that. Behind the scenes, she was still struggling with her mental health and anxiety. On top of that, she was diagnosed with OCD and battled a harrowing eating disorder brought on by years of being hounded over her appearance. I eat too much when no one's looking. I'm eating so I don't have to feel anything. People are like, well, why are you so overweight? Well, because I'm a compulsive overeater in addition to being an anorexic and restrictor. So again, we have to ask, why did she return to acting if it caused her so much trauma? Sadly, life isn't all about choices. After finishing her PhD and having to raise 2 kids on a teacher's salary, Mayim desperately needed health insurance but couldn't afford it. Her only way out was to audition for a few TV roles to earn some extra money. She appeared in small roles in shows like Bones, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Saving Grace. Never could she imagine how her life would change completely. The last thing she wanted was to become a star again.
But then I started auditioning for things, and I didn't expect to be on a TV show. Like, that was not part of the plan at all.
But all that changed when she auditioned for The Big Bang Theory. In fact, she didn't even know anything about the show before auditioning.
You know, I had never seen it. I don't watch TV, so I had never seen The Big Bang Theory.
Needless to say, Mayim aced her Big Bang Theory audition and fans immediately fell in love with her. But with the love and adoration came more anxiety, and it nearly tore her apart. With acting stuff, my level of anxiety surrounding performing is very, very high. It's a high level of anxiety. It's like an instant knot in your throat. Like, I want to cry. Despite Mayim's own personal struggles, her character, Amy, was a massive hit on the show, and she skyrocketed to fame once more. And with that new fame came more shame and humiliation. As if being harassed over her appearance wasn't enough, she was now also being bashed left and right about anything and everything that she did or said. For instance, she dared to open up about her personal experience with sexual harassment in Hollywood, especially in light of the Harvey Weinstein scandals. In an op-ed for the New York Times, she wrote, "Those of us in Hollywood who don't represent an impossible standard of beauty have the luxury of being overlooked and in many cases ignored by men in power unless we can make them money." She further wrote that she always makes a point of dressing modestly and not flaunting her body in revealing clothes or being flirtatious with men in the business. Her comments were thrown out of context, and she was crucified for victim-blaming women who had been sexually assaulted. Mayim had to publicly set the record straight. It seems that no matter what she does or says, there are always people ready to throw her to the fire. She even received backlash for the way she raised her kids.
I felt exhausted as a new mom. I felt guilty. I felt judged. I felt like I was doing it all wrong.
For one, her second birth was a family affair. Not only was her husband and her first child right by her side while she gave birth at home, but even more shocking, she had her first son, who was just 3 years old by the way, cut the baby's cord as soon as he came out. 3 pushes later, Frederick slithered out, and Miles was carried out of his high chair to cut the cord. Miles then sat down on the floor and minutes later was handed a bundled up, wide-eyed baby brother. Her children also never wore diapers. It sounds crazy, but Mayim uses science to back up her parenting style. Actually, she taught her babies to signal to her when they had to use the potty. Even though they could not yet walk or talk and were still breastfeeding, Mayim taught them to use sign language. Can you believe it?
Basically, babies are born giving signals when they pee and poop, I promise.
She also let her kids sleep in the same bed with her and her husband, even until after they were old enough to go to school. On top of that, she also fell victim to online trolls and hurtful media headlines for breastfeeding her toddler on a public train. Although she did breastfeed her second son until he was 4 years old. In 2012, she divorced her husband, which was also a very difficult time in her life.
I tried to be married once. Like, I was in that position, and I failed.
In that same year, Mayim was involved in a car accident and suffered a pretty bad injury to her hand. However, the accident wasn't the worst of it. The incident also brought old struggles to the surface, and she suddenly became severely sensitive to sound and touch. After that, a tremendous amount of literally trauma stuff surfaced. In 2015, more tragedy hit the actress when her father passed away. It was an incredibly painful time in her life, but she put the pain to use and made her directorial debut with the movie As They Made Us, which she also co-wrote. Since The Big Bang Theory ended, Mayim has continued acting, most notably in her own show, Call Me Kat. If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.